Minecraft is a game that I have a fair bit of history with. I got it during the beta versions as a teenager, and I played it on everything from a desktop that could hardly cope with it in the browser, up to eventually a gaming computer that could handle mod packs and shaders and things like that. This game was very special to me, and I played it for years. However, things did change for me after the Beta 1.8 update, the Adventure update. That update added so much content into the game. It included things like, if I remember correctly, a new lighting engine, the ability to sprint, new terrain generation, and lots more beyond that. The thing is though, it's a bit difficult to explain, but I'll do my best with this. The thing is that I think what had made Minecraft feel so magical to me before was the fact that it was simple to the point of beauty. It left so much space for your imagination to just run wild. It made no effort to fill in the gaps. Even the lighting engine in the older version was really blocky, very distant from reality, and I know the newer versions still aren't at all realistic, but there was something about that older version that just left so much room for your mind to just go wherever it felt like and to see whatever it wanted. And also, the game had a very slow pacing at that time, which, for me at least, really let you sink into the gameplay a lot more. You really felt much more connected to the game's world, because it wasn't just a breeze to run around and get everything done. It was slower, more methodical, and, for me, a lot tougher as well. Especially with the monsters, it was a lot harder to deal with them when you couldn't just sprint and knock them back. Now, for quite a while I did actually keep playing the game after this though, because mods and multiplayer kept my interest in the game. However, as much as I still wanted to love the vanilla single player, it had just lost something for me that never came back. Back then there weren't any console versions of the game, and when I saw those versions start to get released, it seemed so weird to me. I would have looked down my nose at the opportunity to play them. Minecraft was a game that was so deeply rooted in PC gaming, it seemed so strange to see it on a console. However, years later, I found myself with only having a 3DS to play games on. And, of course, what does the 3DS have on it but Minecraft? I actually didn't get it immediately on the 3DS because I had sunk so many hours into playing this game that I think I just felt burnt out from it. I wasn't ready to go back to playing it. However, when the eShop was coming up to closing down, I was doing research into the various games that you could get on there, and I noticed that Minecraft seemed to be one of the few that really utilized the new 3DS hardware to its limits. Although I think I probably left it up to the last day or two of the eShop being up, in the end I couldn't resist getting it. And I am glad that I did. Obviously, one of the defining features of this version is the amount of power, or lack thereof, that the 3DS has. You do get frame drops with this version, but I wouldn't say they're too egregious. In my experience, frame drops are kind of par for the course with Minecraft. Most of the computers I've played on have at least occasionally had lag spikes with it, and I would say that some of them actually struggled more with the game than my 3DS does. So I'm not really too worried about that aspect. What is a bit stranger is the fact that the world sizes are actually limited on this version. I can see how that could put off some people. For me, it's not too much of a big deal though. The worlds are still a pretty good size. There's still a lot to explore, and I actually kind of like the idea that if you want, you can impose the challenge of yourself of managing to tame your entire Minecraft world, making the entire thing safe and easy to traverse, which of course you could never do if you had an unlimited amount of terrain generating. Something I do really dislike about this version though is the rain at night. When it starts raining in this version, it will limit the render distance even further than usual. Obviously it's not a super far render distance at the best of times, and then to deal with the extra particle effects, it will shorten your view distance even further. And when you combine that with the darkness of night, you cannot see a thing. It's horrible. However, of course, since that's at night, you can just sleep through that. So it's not really a big issue, it's just really unpleasant if you happen to get caught outside without a bed. Now, the 3DS version hasn't been updated in quite a long time. However, it's been so long since I last played the full PC version that this is actually a newer version of the game than what I remember. However, it isn't much newer. There's a few new blocks for me to play around with and a few new creatures, but it's actually pretty close to the version that I had on the PC, which means that it's very easy for me to get back into. It's very approachable and quite comfortable to play again. You probably notice in the title of this video that I said I actually like this version of the game. I don't just tolerate it, I like it. I really like it. I think the main reason for that is actually just the fact that it's on the 3DS. As I mentioned, I really like seeing the hardware of this console pushed to its limits. Not that many games really utilize the new 3DS very well, which makes sense being as there are presumably a lot more of the old 3DSs out there. Or even if there aren't, if you can make your game run on the older hardware, why wouldn't you? So I do really like seeing it push the hardware like this. I also like how it takes advantage of the controls fully. It's always nice being able to use the nub and the extra shoulder buttons that you get on this console, because again, not that many games do use it. It's not just because the game utilizes the hardware to the full that I like this version. I also actually like the fact that the hardware is limiting the game. And that might sound like a really strange thing to say, but one of the ways that the hardware limits you is that when you're looking around using the little nub there, it really slows down your movement. And again, that doesn't really sound like a good thing, but it brings it a lot closer to the feeling of the old versions of Minecraft with very slow, methodical gameplay. You do still have the option to sprint, but you can't react to things as quickly and smoothly as you would with a keyboard and mouse. This makes the monsters a lot more intimidating, and again, it just makes it a lot slower, a lot more methodical. And for me, that makes it feel calmer and easier to sink into the game's world. There's also the fact that this is a portable version of the game. And yes, I know you can use it, I know you can get it on mobile devices, but I don't want to play games on a smartphone or a tablet. That's gross. I would much rather play it on something that is purpose-built for gaming, like a 3DS. Since this is portable, you can use it on the settee or even in bed. As a teenager, I was fine with taking Minecraft a bit more seriously, playing it sitting at a desk with a proper big computer, but now that I'm a little bit older, I feel that this is more of a game to relax with. I really wouldn't be happy playing it at a desk. I would much rather have it in a portable format where I can use it wherever I want to. If I ever go back to the full version of the game, it'll have to be on something like my Steam Deck, so that way I have the option to just use it wherever I feel most comfortable at the time. I feel like this is a bit of a silly thing to bring up. However, I did notice a kind of psychological benefit to this version. You see, with the PC version, I used to be really connected with what the community was doing. I would watch Minecraft a lot on YouTube, and it was amazing seeing how they kept developing the game. Or rather, they kept developing the ways to play the game. They would make these incredible huge structures that just kept getting more and more impressive and detailed. Lots of YouTubers were improving in their style of building, and they were getting more and more efficient at how to collect resources and making these big machines and contraptions and mob farms. It was incredible to watch, but it was also very intimidating. It was really hard not to compare your own playstyle to these really impressive players, and it was very easy to feel like you were inadequate. With the 3DS, while I'm sure there are still many players of this version who are better at the game than me, it feels so much more simple and kind of disconnected from everything that I feel less inclined to compare myself to others with this version. And while I know this is very much all in my head, and I'm sure if you really want to get, if you think like me but you really want to get your head straight with the PC version, I'm sure it's possible to do so. But as I said, this is just something that I noticed from my time playing on this version of the game. I wasn't as inclined to compare my own playing and building style to other people's. Another detail that I like is how it uses the touch screen. It's nice being able to just press on here to change what item you've got selected on your hotbar, and I really like having the map here constantly. I am great at getting lost, and on the PC version I always had to write down the coordinates of my bases, because if I went out to explore, then if I didn't have the coordinates written down, I was almost certainly going to get lost. Even though the worlds are smaller on this version, they are still big enough that I could easily end up never finding a base again if I'm not careful. So having the maps on here is a really nice feature. I do really appreciate that. Now, as much as I like this version of the game, and as much as it does do right, there are some real problems with it. For instance, after putting in about 40 or 50 hours and getting a couple of bases well established with some farms, I've started to find it hard to know what to do with myself in the game. I'm sure some people don't have as much of an issue with this, but for me, I kind of need mods or multiplayer to be able to keep the game interesting. To me, that's part of the game's identity, and it doesn't really have any of that kind of stuff. There is a Super Mario World on this version, but that feels like such a lame gimmick to me. All it is I think it's a Flatlands world, and there's a bunch of Super Mario structures and Super Mario themed terrain added into it. I mean, I suppose it's kind of cool. I've seen some people who like it, but to me it's really lame. There's nothing to do there. It's just some kind of cool looking Nintendo themed builds. It's nothing special. Definitely nowhere near as cool as the kind of things you could get out of mod packs. Also, as much as I love being limited to the controls of the 3DS, it does kind of get to be a problem because of my joystick. Control stick, I mean. And I do very specifically mean my control stick, because this thing is dying. It's still usable at the moment, but it does have drift, and it's getting harder to push down on it as well. And it's just getting gradually harder and harder to play the game. And while this isn't going to be an issue for everyone, as this console gets older, I'm sure that's going to become more and more common for people to struggle with. And on my 3DS, the screws on the back are practically made of butter. I have tried to get in there, and I think I might have sheared off the top of the screws, so unless I feel like taking a Dremel to the back of it, I think I am stuck with this control stick for the time being. However, as many flaws as this version may have, I always feel really glad that it's just sitting here on my 3DS, and I can just grab it whenever I feel like relaxing with some simple block building fun. It's just so easy to get into, so easy to go back to, and so simple. So those are my reasons for liking what is arguably the worst version of Minecraft. Thank you so much for watching all the way through this video. I hope you enjoyed it, and please don't forget to dislike and unsubscribe. And don't you dare leave a comment down below, you little... I should start advertising Stick Drift as a feature.